Jamie, you're back
I'm back.
from Papua New Guinea.
Yes, thanks to you. So
Thanks to you.
I was lucky enough to go on an incredible trip to Papua New Guinea based on a recommendation from Spencer to an interesting organization that was kind of doing a UK Papua New Guinea trade thing. But we are here today to talk about this lovely coffee and these two beautiful chocolates.
We are, but hopefully at some point we are going to do a Papua New Guinea chocolate and coffee tasting, but we are. So tell us about this Guama. Am I pronouncing that completely wrong?
Guama. No, it's an easy one. Yeah, for me at least. Guama is, if you are a lover of Kenyan coffee, this is going to tick all of your boxes. So this is our first wash Kenya of this year's harvest. It's from Kirinyaga, which is in central Kenya. If you've been kind of following our Kenya program for the last couple of years, we've really been exploring all sorts of different areas, but Kirinyaga as one of the central provinces, and this style of coffee from Guama is sort of a classic. And interestingly, Guama's coffee was one of the first Kenyas that I tried when I first got into coffee. So when we tasted a lot from this here and, it like triggered this sensory memory, I knew we had to have it.
It is the most delicious. I mean, we've cheated and had a little bit before.
Yeah.
But it's beautifully mellow, but it has this wonderful length of all these complex fruit notes which just come bursting through.
Yeah. Definitely a good conduit for us to talk about acidity in coffee, which we're going to touch on a little bit today.
We're definitely going to talk a little bit about, because you picked two interesting examples of what we would describe as being sort of quite, in the case of the Madagascar, quite berry, quite citric. And in the case of the Lachua, again, quite citric, but with some interesting other fruity notes. So we've got two chocolates here. The first one is by a new maker, Storm Bille, who are in Sweden, just outside Stockholm. And this is their Lachua bar from Guatemala, and we're delighted to have it. And do you want to take a piece first?
Absolutely.
And the color of it is intriguing. And I don't just mean the packaging, which is beautifully packaged. It's a lovely size bar, but they managed to do this. I remember tasting this with James very early on when we were taking them on. And they've got this creaminess, which I think starts with this chocolate. And then we get all these wonderful jammy notes.
Yeah, it's such a refined texture. I think it actually echoes this coffee really well.
I think it does too. What's happening here, I think, is in part the acidity. So acidity in chocolate, and we're going to talk more about this in coffee and chocolate, is very much beans have got a tiny bit, but what really happens is it's the fermentation, it's the reaction as the pulp turns into an alcohol, the sweetness turns into an alcohol. It's that which gives it some of the acid. And you have to control it very, very carefully, because if you don't control it well in the fermentation, if you don't control it well in the drying, you can get all sorts of sort of cheesy off notes. But in this case, they've absolutely done it beautifully. But you are right, it complements absolutely beautifully.
Yeah, and I think this particular chocolate so our flavor notes on the bag for this filter, because we're going to be offering this in our shop as filter and espresso, but we'll offer the filter as part of this pairing. So black grape, guava, and juicy. I feel like this, definitely speaks more to the guava and juicy. So really goes kind of more in a citric direction. I think like, pinks and yellows and oranges. And again, the packaging helps a little bit, but I think it's true to form. When we were tasting, we tried to kind of blind it a little bit.
Yeah, we sort of get the stone fruit. The guava is a very good note.
Red cherry maybe.
Yeah, but it's a wonderful story behind the farmers who grow this, because they're called the Kechi. And they have been growing cocoa for at least 1,000 years. In fact, they were the first people we are aware of in 1544 who actually brought finished cocoa to the court of Philip II of Spain with Bartholomew Casas.
Wow.
So there's a great history. So you're really tasting some wonderful history there.
Yeah, I also noticed so when I was looking at the region and everything, it's, I believe it's Alta Verapaz.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the few places in the world where you can find really excellent chocolate and really excellent coffee kind of growing in tandem.
Yeah.
Most other places, it's just like, it suits one, it doesn't really suit the other. You'll see them overlap, but the quality is really different. But this is one where you can find
but it's sort of, they're on that cusp where they both sort of manage to sort of get it going together too. And then for your second, you've picked one of the all-time great favorites, which is beans from the wonderful Bertil Akkerson in his Bajofo estate, and made by the amazing Dahlia and Brian Graham of Fruition. So, and again, lovely colors, beautiful purple, royal purple. So let's have a go.
Yeah. me these big pieces. So
These
a
are
little
great
selfish
pieces.
today.
Yeah. No, I think we're definitely doing good. And they do this lovely packaging, which when you look at it closely, and when you look at the mold too, they've actually basically created a sort of mold which has got all of the different cocoa fruits, the cocoa pods on top of it. So it works just amazingly. A little bit darker. Doesn't quite have that creaminess of the mouthfeel, but a beautiful melt.
Yeah, I love this style of acidity too. So we actually tried, you gave us quite a few Samburano cocos to try for this pairing. And it actually, like, each one that we tried really paired well with this coffee, but this particular bar just really sang. And yeah, like I would characterize this type of acidity as kind of like, there's a bit more malic, so kind of that, high intensity that you get from a green apple or a really ripe peach. But also kind of going into a more blackcurrant direction, bit of berry, which, this packaging is very suggestive of. But I really like that because that is definitely something that we see from Guama. There's similar things going on with acidity drivers in coffee production as well. So in particular, most Kenyan coffee is dry fermented. So that means that all of the liquid that's coming from it is just coming from the pulp of the coffee. And we could really talk about that all day, but we find more often that those dry fermented coffees really tend towards these types of blackcurranty flavors, and I think this definitely characterizes
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I would not have initially said blackcurrant with this chocolate, but once I tried it with the coffee, absolutely it's blackcurrant. It's just, and it's really interesting. You said at the beginning that these coffees would actually bring out different notes in the chocolates and vice versa, and you've absolutely nailed it. I mean, it's a wonderful example because I got a lot of sort of much earlier red fruit, much more of the jamminess, much more of the almost the lemon, that sort of citric, but now I'm just blackcurrant all the way.
Yeah, the power of suggestion, right?
Oh no, I got it almost before. I think, to be fair, I think it is bringing out different notes, and it's like the way that acid works with chocolate is that it enhances and it brings out different flavor aspects, and I think that's what the coffee is doing as well.
Excellent. All right, should we move on to espresso?
Espresso, here we come. So let's try it as an espresso.
Whew, lots of intensity.
Wow, that definitely wakes you up. That definitely is. It's very interesting. It's a completely different profile in terms of intensity, but still very similar in terms of flavor.
Yeah, no, it's definitely packs a punch. So let's try it with the chocolate.
I think that's right. I think start with the Fruition this time.
Yeah.
Again, I get the blackcurrant. Sweeter. I think it's sort of comparing and contrasting because I think the intensity of the espresso.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, definitely kind of, I feel like I'm getting a lot more of the sort of berry notes out of the chocolate because I'm so focused on the sweetness with it.
Yeah.
I
think that's one of the things which bitterness and acidity, sourness do, is they bring out different flavors and different fruity notes as you try different chocolates.
I'm excited to try this one.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be kind of like hat on a hat because it's so electric. But I'm looking forward to that.
This will be, I think texturally it's very interesting that it is, just as the espresso is different in terms of texture from the filter, I think the interesting thing about these chocolates is that they're also very, very different in terms of the initial texture you get from it. This is much more tactile, much more unctuous.
Ooh, that's a nice combination.
Yeah, I think you've done a fantastic job here because I think what we're getting is very, very much what you're getting is different flavor notes, different flavor waves, different complexities coming out as you try the chocolates with the coffee. So try the chocolates on their own a bit, try the coffees on their own a bit, and then try them together, and definitely try contrasting them and make the notes as you go through, because I think it's just magical what you managed to do here with this lovely Guama and the lacquer, the Guatemala chocolate, and also the Samburano.
That's really nice. Yeah, it's almost, I feel like I don't usually, when we do these, I don't usually think of like, oh, you should taste them in this way for the filter and taste them in this way for the espresso. But I actually think that doing this one first with the espresso and doing this one first with the filter, like, I think that was the right.
I think that's definitely the right call. I think that is definitely the right call. And I think also just make notes individually on the coffee, on the bars, and then just see how different it is when you actually try them. And very much, I get more blackcurrant coming out of here, and I get more of the stones coming out of this one as I taste them together. And it's very interesting to compare them, you know, filter and espressos too. So thank you very much for this lovely treat. And we will be talking more about acidity, what gives rise to it, what are the good things about it, when do you want to avoid it, in both coffee and chocolate very soon. We're going to do a deep dive, a longer version of that. But as you try these, that's your taster. Thank you.
Excellent.